everyone, and welcome to the episode 5 of ARINGO's Coffee Chat series. I am Priyanka Khandelwal, and thank you for so much for joining just weeks before the final hit of the round 2 deadlines. We understand the clock is ticking, the pressure is on, and that's why our topic for today is on the title The Application Sanity Check and the Weakness Mitigation Strategy. We are here to give you clarity on and confidence that you are confident enough to hit that submit button and your application is the goal piece that you were wishing for. I'm extremely excited to introduce our expert panel today. So, first of all, we have our CEO Jen. Hi, Jennifer. And
Hi.
hi. And Jennifer is someone who guides the strategy behind the thousands of successful admins that we have. And welcome back, Jen. Can you tell us about this time? We are close to round two deadlines now.
Yeah, it's definitely crunch time for everybody. We're so excited, but also kind of in that rush period of time. So, um, we're really excited. Thanks, Priyanka, and I can't wait for you to introduce our star guest of the day.
Yes, and joining us for the first time, we have Shimri Winters. Hi, Shimri.
Hello, hello, hello.
So Shimri is an LBS alum. He's also general manager here at ARINGO, and most crucially he is an ex-admissions committee member of the prestigious London Business School. So welcome, Shimri. So we'll start from you. Okay, so from the AdCom desk, you need to give the perspective from there. What's the one word that sums up for you how you view an application submitted in during the final week?
Okay. So first of all, hello, and thanks for having me here. So yes, I've reviewed hundreds of applications, and when I used to interview at London Business School, don't know, tens of interviews. And when I used to look at an entire application, I think the one word is probably clarity. What we want is to make sure we understand the vision of an application and the resume, the essays, even the recommendations, even the online application questions, they all need to be aligned together. And, if I kind of see something which I'm not sure about, maybe it's a bit sloppy in some ways, or maybe something contradicts something else, that's something not good. And, you know, uh, schools get thousands of applications and, they're looking to filter some of those out. So again, I would just say clarity and consistency.
Okay. That sets the stakes, they're too high. And so before I proceed, I want to give a quick note to all the audience that we have like three exceptional offers today to help you with your round two applications. Like we have a free 30-minute profile evaluation session if you want to avail with Jennifer or Shimri. We also have a free Aringo's test drive service takeaway. So we'll discuss all that towards the end of the session. So stay tuned with us, be there till the end, and we'll discuss all the offers and how you can avail them. Okay, coming back. So, Jennifer, let's start with the immediate action item that we have is the alignment trap. So we have done the essays, we have person has done the resume, recommendation letters, everything is in place. How you ensure that as being in Aringo, how the Aringo's process it ensures that everything is aligned. Your essays, resume, everything is telling the same story. So is there a way to check that?
Yeah, so I would say that, like Shimmery mentioned about consistency, so we kind of think of like an alignment matrix, so to say, to make sure that the applicant's leadership quality is stated in the essay, but it's also validated by the recommenders. And it's supported by the different bullet points on your resume, right? So everything is telling this story in different ways and reaffirming that candidates fit for the program and what they have to bring that's unique compared to anybody else.
Okay, and again, Shimri, as Jennifer mentioned, it is about the consistency in the narrative throughout all the parts of your application material. So when you see an application, like, where the story you see is not aligned. So what is the first immediate conclusion that you draw about that candidate? I'm sorry, your voice is mute. You're on mute, Shimri.
That's already a good thing. So I think it really depends. I mean, it really depends. But of course, at a worst case scenario, if I see some inconsistency, I could even think about dishonesty. I could even think about someone who's, just lying, and they're saying one thing here and one thing there, and it just doesn't make sense, kind of thing. So that would be on a very worst case scenario. On a better case scenario, I'll just say, maybe this person hasn't invested a lot in the application. Maybe they're just not serious enough about my particular school or about their application, or they're just sloppy, or, something else. And in both cases, I will probably not pass them to the next stage. So it doesn't really matter what I'm thinking. It needs to be consistent, because if it's not consistent, I'm probably thinking, something not very good about the applicant.
Yeah, so you need to be, the story needs to be aligned. The all the
Correct.
application material need to be aligned, should be in sync with each other, should connect each other. So that's the idea.
Correct.
Jennifer, we get a lot of questions from our clients as well, and a lot of people about the word count and compliance. So, the candidates come to us that, they have written the essays, everything looks good, but they're like 10 words above the word count that has been prescribed for that essay. Or maybe they have missed one short essay question in the application. That was a short essay question, but they missed it by chance. Are these a big deal breaker from the the committee's perspective? How do they see it?
Yeah, I think it kind of all boils down to professionalism. So, I guess in the end, like if you're saying that I'm detail oriented, but yet you missed something or you are over budget, it's really telling the committee, I don't know if that's exactly true. Like, are you detail oriented if you missed a question or if you're not paying attention to the word limit we set? So, I think like the biggest thing is to make sure you're following the instructions and make sure that you are setting time to review. You want to review it, you want somebody else to review it for you, and make sure that you've built a timeline for this to happen, because submitting at the last minute is when a lot of these mistakes will happen. And again, like I used to have an admissions director, and she would say, if somebody can't meet the word requirement, it's a data point to consider. So there's something to be said about being concise and following the regulations or rules that are set before you. And while there are definitely some schools who are a little bit more lenient on one or two words, I definitely think it's better to just follow the rules and make sure that you follow the word count and make sure you're safe versus relying on hearsay about whether they do or don't let you go over a couple of words.
Yeah, right. So basically, the word count is there for a reason. Those questions are there for a reason. So one cannot and one should not ignore it.
Yes.
Uh, so we've talked about the essays and everything being aligned, checking on the budget check of the word counts and the questions. Uh, Talk about the goal reality check here. So a candidate's, we say, always say a candidate's post MBA goal should be feasible. Okay. So Shimri, I'm asking this to you. So when you review a goal, and what specific immediate cues tells you that the applicant hasn't done their research well enough or homework well enough, that their goals seems to be unrealistic? What are the cues that you see and you get that conclusion?
Yeah, thank you for that, Priyanka. I was actually working with a candidate today, and I was asking him, like, what are your real goals? Forget the business schools. Where do you see yourself in 4 or 5 years? And he said, like, I see myself as a technology leader. I said, great. What exactly does that mean? Is that a product manager or project manager? Is that in a startup or in a big organization? Is that at Google? Or you don't want Google because they're, I don't know, old for you. You want some kind of a more innovative company. Are you going to be a founder or are you just going to be a business leader? And where is this going to lead to? So, in 10 years, are you going to be the general manager of Facebook or are you going to be a founder of a nimble startup? So I think the one word we're looking for here is to be very specific. Okay, be very specific. I want to work as a strategy consultant at a company like McKinsey, at their oil and gas, whatever practice in Indonesia. Okay, that is a very, very, very specific role, company, location, and I want that to lead to, and same thing. So I think you have to be very specific. Of course, to say something unrealistic or not connected to the school in any way, like I want to be an astronaut in NASA and fly to the moon, and that's why I want to go to Harvard, well, that doesn't make much sense. So you also need to connect it to the business school, maybe check out employers that come to employ alumni, et cetera, et cetera. But be very specific. That's the word.
Shimri, I wanted to add to that because a lot of the times, like when I talk to somebody, they're like, I'm not dead set on like, I have to do X, Y, or Z. I want to go in with this open mind and I want the committee to know that I'm open to this, like whatever happens. And I mean, whenever they see that on the application, and for me, I think that they see uncertainty. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, we've asked tens of heads of admissions, and what we asked them is this. Many 27, 28-year-olds, 30, 40, 50-year-olds don't know what they want to be when they grow up. And you're asking a very specific question. What do you want to do in 3 years, in 5 years? And, I want to be honest, I don't know, or I think I know, but I'm not sure. And it's funny, the answer, it's like they've all coordinated answer. Their answer is, we know things might change. We know you might not be 100% sure about your goals, but give it your best shot. Close your eyes, and if you had to choose, your dream career and how you would get there, just show us how you would get there. And the main reason is employability, okay? These schools are not doing it from the gracious of their hearts. They're doing it because they want to find amazing students who are employable, which goes into the rankings, obviously. And they want, so they want to make sure that your goals are realistic, are connected to your past, are connected to what the school can help you find post-MBA.
So, yeah.
Awesome.
That is something to make note that one has to be specific about the goals and it should sync with the school that you're going to do the homework, meet people, attend webinars, see what their specialization is, what is their employment report and everything. And together, that's how you work on your essays and application. So, as you mentioned that, it is partly about the application sanity check and partly about the weakness mitigation strategy that we want to discuss today. So, let's talk about the hard stuff here now, Jen. So, we say almost every applicant has some or the other red flag. Okay, so let's talk about the fun that's a very common one. That's a low GPA that if a candidate has. So people have questions that they have a low GPA, but how do they show in their application? I mean, should they say it clearly in their optional essay, or maybe just stop it and let the adcom review and see in their own way that how the GPA is and post college how they have done the awards and achievements and just not play around it. So, what is the strategy around the low GPA that a person should follow?
Yeah, so I believe that everybody kind of, no matter what country you're from, there's probably some sort of adage about not allowing people to make assumptions. And that's a big thing for the admissions committee. You never want them to make an assumption about what happened with this like problem area on your application, whether that's, GPA, work gap, etc. So you should find a way to tell them about it. So if any point of your profile is below the class profile significantly. Like I would say, a lot of these schools might have a class profile of maybe like a 3.5 or so. Then you might want to talk about it, especially if it's below a 3.0. And it doesn't have to be extravagant, right? Just a short, succinct, optional essay statement that says, you'll see during undergrad, I struggled during my first year. I wasn't ready or prepared for this, but I was able to pick up momentum, and you can see my grades increase throughout. However, I was never able to fully recover my GPA. I've ensured that my GMAT score or my GRE score has, significantly, like demonstrated my quantitative abilities and readiness for this program, right? So maybe I was a little flowery in my language, but like it's 3 to 4 sentences that say like this is what happened. It could be a medical problem, it could be shifts, moving from one place to the other, etc. But you want to take some time to acknowledge it and then bring up what they should consider instead to be able to see where you're capable of, being in a top MBA program and being able to be at the, work with some of the brightest people in their MBA cohort. So that's my thought. No assumptions.
True that. So one is, as I mentioned, the low GPA. Another is career gaps or maybe job hopping. Okay, that's another thing that very common among all the candidates. So what is the view of the AdCom on career gaps and for candidates who have various job hopping on your resume and on the profile? And what is the best way to frame their professional timeline to demonstrate intentionality, okay, that there is an intention behind of why these are happening and the progressive growth, rather than it shows instability of the candidate, etc. So how do she go about that?
So I would again kind of talk about, you want to paint the picture for them. You don't want them to assume anything. So work on framing it so that they can see. I had an old professor that was saying that like your journey is never so easy as to be from point A to point B. And so as you're going through your path, you'll definitely, he used a boat analogy, you're going to stop in different harbors. So you want to use that ability to say like, on my way to becoming a product manager, I realized it was really important that I spent time in the marketing department, and this is why I was here. And you want to talk about how you built your career along the way. There's not always a great way to fit that into the typical essay questions, but if you feel like you've moved a bunch, you can find a narrative that kind of says like, I tried to curate my own experiences to make my experience well-rounded to get to this next level. So I would say tell them why it makes sense to you as to where you went. Yeah.
Okay. So 2 points we have discussed here. So even if there are career gaps or even their job hopping, just explain everything that needs to be explained in the essay. Okay, just don't lead anything to assumption. I think that's the mantra here. Okay. The third bit we have also discussed in our previous coffee chats as well is the low GPA. So how to tackle, sorry, not the low GPA, I'm sorry, the low GMAT score. So how to tackle the low GMAT score in the application, and is there a way, so option essay is one that we say, so how to say that, okay, the person has a low GMAT, but how do we explain that in an optional essay? And is there any other way to explain a low GMAT score that you can guide on?
Actually, I'm going to let Shimri take this question because this is like what ARINGO is all about.
Okay, first of all, I want to say generally about the low GMAT or low GPA or gap that there's no formula. We're giving here some very general advice, but it's definitely case by case, and we've used different strategies for different people. I'll just give an example. If you have a very good GMAT and your GPA isn't so good, you might not want to even touch that. If you have a 770 GMAT, amazing GMAT, whatever, the fact that you have a 3.0 GPA, I don't even know if that's relevant. That was, and maybe you have 3 or 4 or 5 years of post-undergraduate experience, so that might not be relevant. It might be relevant to your story, it might not be. So first of all, we're saying here some general things, but please speak to us one-on-one for some specific, info for you and the best advice I think we can give. We definitely, most of our candidates have some kind of flaw, some kind of less good thing about them. They might come from an overrepresented background. They might have a low GPA. They might have a gap, or they might have a lower than average GMAT or GRE. Definitely, we can overcome this. We've had, so many examples to the top schools, and the way to overcome it is in a number of ways. First of all, show who you are. Show your strengths. The strengths can come in various ways: in the essays, in the CV, in the recommendation, in the online application, in anywhere you can show various strengths. They can be academic. Maybe you got some kind of merit in your undergraduate degree. Maybe you got some kind of letter of something from your mayor for donating or giving your time, or something in your extracurricular activities. So like Jenifer said, like don't leave anything for assumption. You can show your your merits in various ways. And if you feel, again, we can discuss it on a private level, but if you feel that your GMAT score is a bit lower and you think you need to explain it, don't be hesitant to use the optional essay and explain why. You can say, I'm not very good at these tests, or you can say, I didn't want to miss this year, so I wanted to apply anyway. I don't think it represents my ability because, I ABC, which will change from candidate to candidate. So it's not a no-no if your GMAT is a bit lower, and definitely you can use a lot of the application to validate that you are still a very strong applicant.
Thank you, Shimri. That helps and that answers the questions as well of the various, any gap in the application, any extenuating circumstances that you have in your application. Explain, use the optional essay wisely, and don't keep things on the guessing mode. Uh, uh, Another point that we have, Jennifer, that in generally we know that B schools look for candidates with experience somewhere between 3 to 5 or 3 to 6 years of experience. But every year we get a lot of candidates who are either under experienced or over experienced from that given range. So how do they prove to the admissions committee or in their essays, etc., that they are the right fit for the program that they're applying to?
Yeah, I would say that a lot of the times you're thinking of what the AdCom is thinking. So, if you have less than 3 years of work experience, they want to know, why aren't you waiting a couple more years, get some more experience underneath you, and then be able to better leverage this MBA. But in the end, like, if you feel like it's not like getting another year or two of work experience isn't going to change very much, then you can talk to them about, like, I want to be able to approach this much faster. I need this accelerated high impact growth to be able to get where I want to, and be able to do that now versus and sitting and waiting. And so I think that that's something else, is like, you need to give them this impetus of, this is why I need to do this right now. I need to be a part of what's happening in the next 2 years. I want to be part of the AI revolution, or the way that AI is implemented in XYZ for the first time ever. So that's one way to talk about it. If you are on the other side of the bell curve and have more than 7-8 years of work experience, the committee can sometimes assume that you're better fit for either a senior program, which are fantastic. There's definitely some of those out there that are really amazing and can be really good for you, like the Foster Global MBA, Stanford MSX, or even the Sloan Fellows program. So you could definitely consider those. But on the other side, if you're thinking, I want to do a full-time MBA and not be lumped in with the executive MBA candidates, you've got to be able to show them that you're not over experienced and that you need to get this more fundamental experience to be able to move into your next part of your career. And so sometimes like you have to really demonstrate what you're missing and show those career gaps, not to make you not a good candidate. So it's like a balancing act, right? And so it's something we do a lot. But you want to be able to balance it so that the committee can say, okay, we see the need for the MBA, the full-time program, etc. I think the other part of it is making sure that you're setting yourself up for the right kind of jobs afterwards that are that are more inclined towards candidates that maybe have more years of work experience or are over 30. That's a whole nother topic, I think. So anyway, so this is kind of the way that I think you need to kind of address it, is tell them why now is the right time for you. If you had to, do something else before you got to this point, then you want to make sure that they can understand the path that you've taken and why this is your next step.
Thanks, Jay. And Shimri, I want to understand from your end as well that, when you were, evaluating profiles in LBS, and if you happen to see an over-experienced candidate among the applications, uh, what's the most compelling reason that you felt was okay, and that those applicant they can belong to the full-time MBA program? So is there some specific reasons that you look at?
Definitely. So first of all, again, having some kind of disadvantage, for example, being over experienced or a bit older, isn't necessarily a disadvantage if it's within, reason, and if you can explain it. If there's credibility for your explanation. So for example, I think Jenifer also touched it in the end, so being realistic about jobs, etc. So if you're an investment banker and have been progressing for 10 years and now you're a director at Citigroup, you probably don't need a full-time MBA. You're already 2 levels above what the MBA's alumni are looking for. So it has to be realistic. But if you have been in the army for a lot of years, or if you've been in the academia life for a lot of years, maybe you did 3 degrees, or maybe you were an engineer. So I've recently worked with an engineer who worked in a defense company, and he's been there for 7 years. And I asked him, about promotions. And he said, listen, I work with 50, 60-year-olds with 30 years of experience. A promotion here takes between 6 to 12 years. And that's very different than a company like Deloitte, where you might get a promotion every year. So I understand someone like that who wants to do a shift. Maybe he's been working as an engineer for 8 or 9 or 10 years. But now he wants the MBA to do a shift. Maybe he wants to go towards venture capital, or he wants to go towards product management, or even a startup or something like that. I think that makes sense. As long as you explain why you need the MBA for this shift that you're looking to do, I think that will work. Again, within reason. If you've been 50 years somewhere, you're probably too experienced for a full-time MBA. And like Jenifer said, there's other options out there. There's MBAs for more experienced candidates. But that's for another session.
True that. So I think we conclude here about the two things that we are mostly talking about. One is the attention to detail. In your essays, everything should align, and should not go beyond the word limit of the essays, etc. And second is explain. Explain whatever needs to be explained. Don't miss out on explanation. Use the short answer questions, the optional essay questions, and other ways to show that you belong to the program that you are applying to. Before we move to our question and answer session, Jenifer and Shimri, I want to just let the audience know about the offers that we have, and everyone, please, we'll be also taking questions after I discuss the offer. So keep writing your questions in the chat box, and we'll take them one by one. Okay. So yes, I talked about initially the three offers that we are doing. So one is that we are offering 15% discount on our comprehensive package and our hourly service of everybody who is attending the session or have registered for the session. That's one that we are giving away. So use it for around your applications if you want. Second is that we are also offering a complimentary profile evaluation session with either Jennifer or Shibri. You can let us know, you can email us, and we'll help you schedule this session, and they can evaluate your profile, help you with your goals and schools list, etc. And you can plan your next steps accordingly. And third is that we are also be giving away a free test drive service to one lucky applicant. So it's a $550 service that we have. So it's a free we are giving to all the people who are attending today. So one lucky attendant we'll see and we'll pick and we'll email you. So just wait for our emails as well. Therein we'll provide all those details. And I also let you know for the last session we have. I'll tell who is the. Uh, just a second. Sorry. So, can anybody see my screen now? Sorry.
Not yet.
Just a second. Now?
Almost. Yay. Oh, look at this
So,
handsome fella.
yes, so Anshuman is here. So Anshuman, he won the free strategy review call. He attended our last session, and you could be the next who can win the Aringo's test drive from us. So let's now start with our question and answer session. Let me open the chat box, and we have the questions here.
So while you do that, as
Yes.
Priyanka mentioned, that we do offer for free profile evaluations. So I'm going to put the link to my calendar in here. So if you do want to join us, please click on that link and find a date that works best for us to chat next week, or if you're thinking about the future at a later date. But yeah, and I think Priyanka will also put that on the screen in just a second when we dive into the Q&A session.
I'll do that before we start with it. I think I have to stop it and share it again. So it's here and it should be visible by now, I guess. Is it?
Here we go. Perfect.
Thank you. So here are the details of both Jennifer and Shivri we have their email IDs here. We also have their calendar links here as well. So you can just use this link and schedule a call or email Jennifer, Shivri, or me. You must have got a lot of reminder emails for this session. So just email me and I'll connect you with either of them. Okay. Coming to questions. So first we have from Muntadhar. Hi, Muntadhar. We discussed this question, but it's a question about what about the strategy on how to address and overcome low standard test score. So I'll just address that, I guess. So one has to show.
I'll answer in short.
Okay.
I think schools are more and more open to looking at a holistic view of candidates. Okay, so I think if you can score very good grades on the other factors, if your professional experience is very interesting, if your extracurriculars are great, if you bring very good recommenders, if maybe you had a good GPA or life experience or professional experience or whatever, and your standard test scores are within a certain range, you still have a chance. Okay, so this isn't a robot that's kind of putting your test and just filtering you out. No, someone's reading your entire application and they want to give you a shot. But I'll also say the other end of that. If the test isn't good and your GPA isn't good and your professional experience isn't good and the extracurriculum isn't good so you're not going to get into Harvard with a full scholarship. So there's obviously those two extents, but definitely don't be too frustrated if one of those factors isn't good. Speak to us. We're very good at helping and overcoming when there's one or two issues in your profile. Mostly a lower than average GMAT score.
Thank you, Shibri. We have another question from Arjun. He talks about how do we term the long-term goals? Should it be very easy, doable, or be aspirational? So I might be stuck between this choice as an international applicant, and do you think we should play it safe?
What a
Jennifer,
question.
can you help us answer?
Well, I mean, Shimri helps head the strategy team, but I'll
Uh-huh.
take a quick shot at it. So, as far as long term goals, I think that it needs to give them some direction about how it ties from your past work experience, present work experience to the MBA short term, and then what you want to do in the long term. And, I always ask people, like, what do you want to do in, like, 5, 10 years post MBA? And they're like, I don't know. It's like, okay, we'll think about it in more general terms. Are you thinking that you want to go more towards like senior leadership, C-level director, or are you wanting to do something entrepreneurial, or do something else, or pivot into a different industry? And I think like that's where you can tie the story together. Plus, it also helps with like the longevity of your MBA, uh, like how that can impact your career in the future, right? So like if you want to go into entrepreneurship, you can say like, even though I don't want to go into entrepreneurship immediately, I do want to use the resources and take this perspective while I'm there and after I graduate. Or let's say you're in family business, like again, like a lot of these people or a lot of these schools have like a family business center or club, etc. And you want to be able to reemphasize why this school is going to help you, not just you know during your MBA, but in the next years to come. So I would say that long term, I say it can be kind of aspirational. What are your thoughts, Shimri?
Yeah, definitely. Again, I agree with it's a very good question. Do I play it safe and look at the biggest recruiter this year in this specific school and just say, oh yeah, I really want to work at whatever the school is, McKinsey, for example, or Amazon as a product manager or strategy consultant. And that's the safest because they're the biggest employer of Columbia Business School. Or do I want to be a bit unique and say, no, I want to work in a biotech company and, make the next COVID, whatever, drug or whatever. So I'm saying there is a balance here. It obviously depends a lot on your background, on your story, on what have you done so far, and how that fits your aspirations. And maybe another little tip, I'm not sure that a bit of honesty might also help. So just you're also gonna hopefully, if your application is good, you'll make it to the next stage, which will be an interview. And if you're just lying and just saying something which just you think makes sense, and maybe it actually worked, and you got the interview, it might be very difficult to pass the interview. Again, I'm not sure who will interview you. It might be an alumnus, and it might be someone who actually knows one or two things about that specific industry that you're mentioning. And he might say, actually, there aren't any venture capital funds who recruit PhDs in biology. I'm just making something up. So maybe this story is just rubbish. So I think you should actually do your research about who the schools recruit, but do think what your real goals are. Where do you see yourself in the future, and probably try and go with that. Just be honest, because usually dishonesty might get caught up. Either the first stage or the interview stage. In both cases, you're going to get ruled out. So that's my long answer.
Yes, we get it. Uh, Another question that we have from Harshita Singhal, and Shimrit is exclusively for you.
Oh no.
So she writes that, hello, really glad to have the opportunity to speak to Shimri and Jennifer. LBS is my dream school. I wanted to have an honest understanding about my shot in round three, as I know the notion is the most seats are filled up and scholarship opportunities are zero for round three candidates, and everyone recommends to wait and apply in round one of the next intake instead of applying in round three. She's also given a case context here that she contracted I said enteric typhoid and got behind on the applications and GMAT. So if I want to give my MBA applications a full try from my end and get delayed on round two application and apply in round three. So that's the
Okay.
question. What LBS is the school that she is targeting?
Okay. So actually, I'm going to take the question a bit wider because there's many factors here to consider. First of all, I agree. Round three, or any round which is after January, is a less good round with lower chances. Some of the US schools, for an international applicant, I would say the chances are very, very, very low. In the European schools and some international programs like London Business School, the chances aren't close to zero. They're still valid. But let's, just for the sake of this discussion, let's say they're half the chance that maybe you would have had in round one or two. So first of all, take that into account. The chances are lower. But I would never rush an application. This means if you have some kind of special, case, and you just can't make it for round two with the best, let's say you only get one shot. We'll have another question about re-apps, but let's say you only get one shot. So do you really want to, and this is your dream school, so do you really want to do some kind of mediocre job? Do you really want to, I'm not really happy with the essays, but I'll submit them, or I'm not really happy with my GMAT, but I'll submit them? So first of all, that's a mistake. So first of all, only apply when you're ready. Now, if you're not ready for round two, so that's off the table. Now you need to think, do I want to take my chance with, let's say, half the chances and make it for next year? Or, maybe I'll actually build up a bit on my weaknesses. Maybe I'll build a bit more work experience. Maybe I'll improve the GMAT. Maybe I'll get to know the school a bit better. And in exchange for that, I'll wait a year, but I'll apply in round one. So this is up to you, but your statistics or whatever, the research you've done is correct. The chances are lower. The scholarship chances are very, very lower. And this is a risk or not risk that you need to decide. Now I'm going to put all that aside. Every year we work with London Business School round three candidates who get accepted. So I'm saying chances, scholarships, all that's correct, but still it can be done. Same with NCADS round four, London Business School round three, Oxford, Cambridge have late rounds that we've had success in, ES Barcelona, late rounds. For US schools, if you're an international candidate, again, I would kind of be extra careful and probably advise not to apply.
Okay, thank you. Thanks. That explains. And I would recommend Harshita if you want to, because that's a very profile oriented question as well. That one can see your profile, evaluate, and then can guide. So if you want, we can do that as well. So take the profile evaluation if need be, and maybe then you can decide if you need further explanation or more details on it. Coming to another question. So we have a question from Harshal. Hi, Harshal. He's asking, are there any specific elements that AdComs look for that demonstrate strong cultural fit with the program? So,
Yes. This is like my favorite subject. It's like
Yes.
my number one thing that I'm like so excited about. I have a couple of YouTubes about it that we can share links to later. But in the end, like these schools want you to want them and they want to make sure you're the right fit. So in their mind, they're curating a class. They're selecting people that are the right fit. And I say curating because it's all the pieces are different, right? They're looking for unique profiles, but still people who are in a way like-minded enough to work well together, be productive, and to help one another. So they do want to see that you are a good culture fit. Schools like Tuck, Duke, I would say Cornell, those types of schools that Darden, like those schools that are kind of college cities or college towns where they're kind of a little bit remote. They really want you to be able to show that you've been able to ingrain yourself in a network one way or another. Or if you haven't yet, that you have an inclination to do it instead. And so that's just one example. And I can go off on a tangent forever. But like just taking this example, you want to be able to show that you've done that in your clubs, your activities, at work, and that you're part of something, like you're in the fabric or the DNA of whatever you're involved in. This is how you put yourself forward and get involved with everybody, and not only take from the program, but also give back to it. And so that's, one element of it. So you might talk about joining specific committees at work, or being in specific clubs or activities while you're an undergrad, hobbies, those types of things. But then you want to start to draw it into the future and say, like, I look forward to joining XYZ club, as it, is something I'm really excited about. I would say that obviously you can mention that you want to do some sort of professional club, like, the finance, fintech, or consulting club, but then take something that's a little bit more niche for that specific school. Like, I can't remember which school it is, but I think one of them has like a fencing team. And so if that is your cup of tea, like, definitely lean into it, and share, like, that's one of the reasons, well, not one of the reasons, but it's part of how you envision yourself being part of the community. So yeah, they're absolutely looking for it, Harshal. Find ways to integrate it throughout your application and do your research and network.
I'm just going to get my sword. I'm looking for it.
Yeah. Next question we have from Ahista Saxena. And Jennifer, you can help us answering this. So it is about ARINGO services. The question she has is, if I take up the hourly package of, let's say, 1 hour, can I get my essays and resume both reviewed, or can I get only one reviewed? Also, essays from just one school application, or multiple essays from multiple schools will also work.
Yeah, so I understand what we're trying to do. And I'll just say that we've actually designed our test drive service to help you with this. And so essentially, you would submit your resume, essays, letters of recommendation, videos, org charts, whatever is included in the application that you want reviewed. Submit all that for the test drive service, and one of our school experts for that school will review the entire application and give you constructive feedback. So it's not 1 hour. It's a package, so that makes it a little bit easier of doing that test drive. And I believe that our current rate is $550 for that first school and $350 for each additional school. So it does have some cost savings, because if you try to do it hourly, it could end up being more than that. So I think it's a great deal. So if you're interested in having something reviewed before you submit, the test drive is that gut check.
Okay. Thanks, Jennifer. We have another question from Arjun. So he mentioned that I'm a fashion technology graduate with a background in ops and SCM, and wants to get inside ops SCM consulting in the US post MBA. I have a GRE score of 333 with a Quant 170. I've done the business foundation course from Wharton and MBA Math. Is there anything that I can do to strengthen my candidacy for consulting jobs, or even as an applicant looking to get an admit? He has also requested that can we unmute and speak when this question comes up.
Okay, so I don't think we can unmute because I think this is a public
Yeah.
Zoom, so we'll save that. A very specific question, so I'll just take it a bit general. First of all, if you have a GRE which is above average, that's already good. And I think you mentioned your GRE is 333, which is above the average. Mm-hmm. And any extra academic work that you can do, like MBA Math or any online courses, are great, and definitely mention them. To get into operational consulting, that's good, and that's very specific, so we like that. If you do operations consulting or anything else, that's great. You mentioned you're a fashion technology graduate, so what I would like to see some kind of connection. Okay, so I don't know I don't know anything about your profile. I don't know where you're working today. Again, this is definitely not the session for one-on-one advice. But I'm saying, if you work today, for example, in the fashion industry, just for example, mm-hmm. and now you want to, maybe whatever, as an engineer, and now you want to go for an MBA and then do a shift towards some kind of consulting. So I would say great, and do that towards maybe the fashion industry operations consulting. Okay, so I would connect your goals to something that you probably did in the past. Again, remember that there's lots of consulting, right? You can consult to hotels, or consult to fashion industry, or consult to banks. So even if you want to be a consultant, be very specific and just connect the dots. Connect them to your past, to your academics, to your interest, your passion, and obviously your professional experience to date. Yes, all that makes sense in theory. Now, does the minor detail of writing your resume, essays, your recommenders supporting that, so minor detail, all the work, but the theory sounds good. So good luck.
Thank you, Shimri. And Arjun, as Shimri has said, that I'm sorry we could not unmute you for this question, but you have the opportunity to speak in a one-on-one evaluation session. So you can schedule a call and have a detailed evaluation, and maybe then you can just decide upon.
Sure.
So for the and they both Harshita has scheduled a call and he has thanked you. One question that I also wanted to run with Shimri. We had a question from when people were registering on the form, Google Forms for the session. There was one question about dividing the applications in round two and fall intake and for some Jan intake. Is it advisable to do, or is it something that one should consider while doing this thing?
Sure. So, we usually have these sessions and we try and keep a general view, and then we think about September intakes, because most schools have a September intake. The
Yeah.
school starts in September. But yes, there are a number of schools. Not many in the US. Columbia have a J term, but most of the other big schools, the 2-year MBAs, will start in September. But in Europe, there's also a couple of schools like INSEAD, HEC Paris, IE Madrid, IMD, which have a January intake. Some in addition to their September intake, some like IMD only a January intake. This is definitely a strategy. I'm working now with someone, and his preferred schools are either IMD, I think that's his first preference, or London Business School, or INSEAD. And IMD only have a January intake, and we're only applying to IMD, I think, in March or April. On the other hand, he doesn't want to miss round 2 for London Business School, which is in January. On the other hand, round 1 for INSEAD, January intake is in March. So he has a bit of a mishmash in the dates. And actually, it's a bit unfortunate, because I think the best strategy would be to apply to all the schools together, hopefully get interviews together, interview at kind of the same time, maybe get multiple results together, and then make your decision. Maybe there'll be scholarships to think about. So it's obviously better to do everything in parallel. But if you're aiming for J terms for January start date for some schools, and some other schools that don't have a January start date, yes, that might be a bit of an issue. And it might hurt a bit the planning. Keep in mind that some schools might have a very high deposit, so you might get accepted to your number 2 or number 3 school, and they might want you to pay a deposit before you hear back from your number 1 school. Generally speaking, INSEAD has a very, very high deposit. I think it's 11,000 euros or above that. So it's very high. But some of the US schools or London Business School, the deposit's just a few £1,000s or dollars, on the low side of the few, like 2,000 to 3,000. So you have to keep that in mind, that some schools will want already a deposit before you hear back from the other schools. So try and parallel everything. But again, you won't be the first person that's applying also to a September term, and also to a January term, and also to the US, and also to Europe. Many candidates do that because they have their eye on a number of schools and a number of backups.
Shimri, one thing that I wanted to add, and a lot of people don't know this yet, but NYU has an Abu Dhabi campus that has a January start now, and it's really exciting, especially as some people are pivoting towards, non-US schools in this season. So it's a really great option if you're looking for a backup plan for maybe things don't go the right way during round two. You could still get a top US school just in a different country.
Yep.
Thank you so much, Jennifer and Shimri. That was really insightful and helpful, I guess. We are out of time now. I'm sorry, guys. And Jennifer and Shimri, thank you so much for all the critical and timely advice that you have given. And guys, everybody attending the session, applying for round two application. I hope you have all the question answered. In case you have any more questions or anything that comes later in your mind, please email us. We would try our best to help. Take those free services that we are offering. And thank you all for turning in and just now go and submit those applications. Thank you, Jennifer. Thank you, Shimri.
Okay, we
Bye,
believe in
y'all.
you. You can do it. Bye, everybody.
Bye.
Bye.
Thanks, everyone.
Thanks.